Who's getting traded in the NBA this season? We've got the most likely players to be on the move. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't be part of the 70% of you that are not subscribed right now. Click that subscribe button and let's fix it. Joining me, Donnie Freeman. Donnie, I think we're going to see a pretty active trade season in the NBA this year. We're seeing a lot more teams get creative around the collective bargaining agreement. And there's already some candidates that we could certainly identify here today that very well are going to could very well find themselves in a different jersey midseason.
Yeah, I agree with you. So you think this is going to be the craziest trade season ever of all time?
I am not going to go that far this time. I'm not going to pull a Shams here and say it's going to be the craziest trade. The summer ended up being the craziest buyout season ever, I think.
You think so?
Really did. Yeah. I mean, Lillard, Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
What, 5 years with over $100 million of dead money sitting on their books? That's a
I think it's just because for one, it's been a while, but two, they kind of hit kind of quickly. Like, didn't the Beal thing happen like a week or so after the Lillard one?
Yeah.
So maybe it feels like it's been a while. But yeah, I agree with you. Teams don't typically like to. In fact, I don't know the last time. In fact, actually, those are the two biggest contracts ever.
The biggest buyouts ever.
Yep. I was gonna say I don't know the last time we had a player like that, but no, those are just they're in the league by themselves. So
that's why it's the craziest buyout summer ever. But let's talk trades here. Let's start here. We've got a number of guys here that could very well find themselves on the move. In fact, we've got 6 of them. Lauri Markkanen. Started with him with the Utah Jazz. He is, by the way, I don't know if you've seen what he's been doing with Finland, but he has been killing it, averaging over 30 points per game right now this summer, playing with his national team. He's looked great. The Utah Jazz need him to look great because, Donnie, I think we're already hitting a point where you can question whether or not Markkanen actually fits the timeline of the Utah Jazz. The only team in the West that we can look at and say, okay, clearly this is not a playoff team. They don't have the potential to make the playoffs. So if we've got another year of not making the playoffs and you're Lauri Markkanen and you're building towards becoming a playoff team, next season he's 29. I don't know that he's the long-term fit for the Utah Jazz. And now that he is actually trade eligible this season, I think they should be looking to move, especially if he continues playing at the level that he's playing at right now for his national team.
Yeah, I don't know why you're being so kind about it. I mean, he just flat out isn't on the same timeline. It's pretty apparent that he's somebody that I'm sure they like. He likes Utah. Last offseason, they purposely signed him at a point where he wouldn't be able to be traded for the entirety of the season.
Right.
Which was, certainly a decision. I just questioned about whether or not, like we always say, can you pay Lauri nearly $50 million?
So that's the thing. We need to see something specific for him to be worth that, because if he plays the way he did last season from an efficiency perspective for the Jazz, then it's going to be tough to move him. 19 points per game. Look, 19 points per game isn't bad, but sub 35% from 3. So we're talking about below league average from 3, 42% from the field. That teams won't pay for that. What teams will pay for is what he did the season before and before that. And that's where that's why seeing what he's doing for his national team right now is such a big deal. He was an all-star, 26 points per game, 39% from 3, 40% from 3 the next season. If the common thought around Markkanen is last season he was a little banged up and he was just on a bad team, and that was why his numbers were low, okay, he bounces back next season. If I'm the Utah Jazz, I've already felt the trepidation to this last season of him not having trade value. Not that they could trade him, but right now, I don't know if teams are going to pay on his contract. If he continues this stretch of form from his national team, though, into the season, and I'm Utah, I'm thinking, I think we just saw how this contract could turn south. Maybe we should move him while we can.
Yeah, I'd argue that last year is pretty clearly an outlier when you look at the percentages. So I wouldn't expect that from him. I would expect him to go back over 20 points per game, but he wants to win. That was something that they said. He wants this team to start winning, and I don't know if they're in a position to do that. I just, he may be one of these guys where you got to get in, see what he looks like, and certainly he's putting up a pretty good audition right now, looking like he does, playing for the national team. But he may be one of these guys where you got to get in, see how he looks in season, see who's a buyer, things like that, because you would be investing in Lauri not just for this season, you'd be investing in him as a key piece of your championship hopes for the next number of years, because he's on the books for a long time. So
yeah, you got to be convinced that he can be your second best player to pay him that. And frankly, if he plays the way he did the prior 2 seasons for Utah, he could be a second best player on a good team.
Are those just good numbers on a bad team?
Not with that efficiency, though.
No.
Now, I would give him more credit than that. That's the fear if you're a buyer, but I would, because I mean, I almost look at it like this, Donnie. If you're shooting 40% from 3 on a bad team, good Lord, what's your percentage going to be on a good team where you're actually getting clean looks? You know what I mean?
I actually want to say with Lowry, I actually think he's really good. He just needs like a really good playmaker next to him to unlock him. And I think he'd be great. He's such a great play finisher. I think he would be really good next to a great playmaker. So if you put him on a team, I mean, like spitballing, if you put him on a team like Atlanta, he would be really good alongside Trey. Now, I don't know if you want him and Kristaps in the front court, but I think that'd be pretty good, right? Like if you were able to do that, but a team like that, or a team like the Lakers, you put him alongside Luka, that'd be really good. Like a playmaker to set him up would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that could be good. I think he would even be good on the Spurs. It'd be scary there, but De'Aaron Fox is not a great passer, but he's good enough, and the attention Wemby would draw. Lowry Markkanen would feast there. There's a lot of scenarios where I think he could be a really, really nice fit. As long as you can get that playmaking there. Don't give him to Orlando, because Orlando doesn't have enough playmaking. Maybe Des Bane helped out a bit there, but Orlando struggled with the playmaking last year. I do have hopes for them moving forward, but I think you're right. You get him a good playmaker, and he's the kind of guy that is going to get to that next level. So Lowry Markkanen, somebody who I think it makes sense for the Jazz to move him, and if he continues this stretch of play that we're seeing with his national team, he will be, I think, sought after. But you mentioned Atlanta. Let's talk Trae Young. This is mostly contractual, because I think the Atlanta Hawks are built very well around Trae, but they're also built in a way that would work with a number of other players in that spot. They are built to mitigate Trae's deficiencies specifically, and they've done a phenomenal job. I love the offseason the Hawks have had, but the fact of the matter is there is no extension right now for Trae Young. He can be a free agent next summer, and if the Utah Jazz or the Atlanta Hawks ultimately decide that they don't want to be the team to pay Trae Young long-term, then it makes sense for them to move him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's just with Trae, looking at De'Aaron getting a max, and you could argue whether or not De'Aaron's max is an outlier. And I'm sure Trae looks at it like, hey, where's my max extension?
Oh, yeah.
If De'Aaron's getting a max, where's my max? Right. Like, but yeah, with this team, like his faults are not unique. And so they could plug in another guy there and keep it moving, right? But I think that one thing with him is that supreme playmaking that he does have. Like I talked about him earlier, he's one of the best in the NBA at setting these guys up, getting those assists and all that stuff. So if you were to try to put somebody else in this spot, while a number of guys could fit here, maybe just the structure of it looks a little different because you're losing that playmaking from Trae. And so I still think they'd probably be best to extend him and see how things look. But yeah, you could potentially flip him and get a nice player back or multiple players back. But I think that if you're going to do that, you probably are really sure that you've got your next guy, whether that's like Daniels or Johnson, things like that. Maybe you've got your next guy and you go from there. And then the last thing on Trae is I would be interested in his market. Not so much on the free agency market, because he would be one of the best guys, if not the best guy on the market at that time, but more so on the trade market, because a lot of teams kind of already have their lead guard set up like that. That's kind of where it's hard for a guy like Trae, I think, to find another destination with everything he may want. And then with a roster that fits around his specific needs, he may want to go to be a championship contender. He may need to go to a certain type of team to accomplish that. And they probably have already got their playmakers set up. And so is he going to marginalize role, less money? Like, what does that look like for him?
You know who should be interested? It's Miami. If they could turn Tyler Hero into Trae Young.
That's a good one. And that's the other thing too, is like that's the outlier here. If you were to trade for Trae, but you're getting an upgrade,
yes,
that's different.
That's what you need. Yep, that's what you need. Would Trae be an upgrade on Ja Morant? Or is Ja Morant an upgrade on Trae? I'm just curious.
I would take Trae today.
You take Trae. I would.
But Ja, a couple of years ago, I would take Ja.
Yeah.
Ja was looking really good a couple of years ago. So if he could bounce back,
All right, let's go here to not as big of a name, Nikola Vucevic. There were comments that he made the other day about how he intends to be with the Chicago Bulls, but the fact of the matter is that he is on an expiring contract. He is still right in the neighborhood of being a 20-10 player, and at 21.5 million, that's a lot. But the Bulls have done a terrible job maximizing value before it walks away off their team for years now. I'm hoping, Bulls fans, I'm hoping that they turn the corner here and they find a trade for Vucevic and that they don't wind up buying him out post trade deadline. Find a move for him. Find some type of, even if you're just getting second round draft capital, is he worth more than that? Maybe. But at his age, going into his age 35 season, I still think he can provide value for a team. Maybe he's a backup big now, which is what Brook Lopez is, at least on a good team. Maybe he would be a backup big, like we're seeing Brook Lopez be with the Clippers. We're seeing Clint Capella be with the Houston Rockets. Could he be? Yeah, Steven Adams is with the Rockets as well. So could he go be that on somebody's team? I think he can have value. I'm not expecting to get Trae Young value, even Markkanen, if Markkanen continues to play well. But I do think there should be a market for Vucevic, and there should be plenty of motivation to move on from him if you're the Chicago Bulls, because clearly they're building for the future, or at least they should be, and he is not part of their long-term future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Vucevic could actually be one of the better backup bigs in the NBA if he were willing to take that role. So I guess that remains to be seen. But if he's, mid-30s, he's probably somebody that I think you could talk into that if he's going to a good team. But it just depends. And then on top of that, though, with the way that he played last year, could he be somebody that keeps that shooting efficiency going? I think that teams would really be looking at that and trying to see if that's a real thing. So maybe, again, another situation where you have to get into the season and get close to the deadline. That's the point of the video anyway, but maybe close to the deadline and then see how he's looking and bite at that point. But at the worst, if you're Chicago, you may still be able to flip him to another team for the fact that he's an expiring deal at that point as well. The worst thing you could do, I think, if you're Chicago, is just lose him for nothing, because they tend to do that with some of these guys. But I think you could do something there. And then looking at their books, they could do something similar with Collins too, right? Like, I think they have some stuff here.
Yeah, they've got some movable players on this road, but Collins is at least still young-ish going into his age 28 season, whereas Vooch,
Nah. Flip it all. Collins,
just burn it all down.
Just flip them all, man. Kobe White was an honorable mention for this video. We didn't get to him. We cut him, but yeah, he's another guy. Like, I would, if I'm them, I'd try to keep him, but they've got decisions to make in their backcourt. So,
all right, let's jump over to Bulls West, aka the Sacramento Kings. Zach LaVine, the other team that's doing stuff. We're like, what are you doing? Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine's in a situation where contractually he's at just under 50 million this season. We could argue whether or not he is worth that. Kind of similar to Lauri Markkanen, shot the ball extremely well last season, but similar to Markkanen in that you can question whether or not he's truly like a second guy on a good team. Is this too much money for him? But he does have a player option for next season. So if he doesn't come to terms on an extension with Sacramento, he could, just like Trae Young, be hitting free agency in 2026. Now, will he really do that, or will he pick up that $48.9 million option? It's fair to question. I don't think he would really get $48 million out there on the market, but nonetheless, his future, he could have just one more year in Sacramento. And so as a result, I think they'd like to keep him, but they may need to look to trade him, particularly if Zach LaVine really wants to win, because right now, this Kings roster needs a lot of work before they're ready to go win basketball games.
Yeah, so the difference is with him and Lowry, aside from just natural positional difference, is that he's a couple years older. And so he's on basically that same deal, but he's now ending it. So this is what Lowry looks like a few years from now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, if you're Zach LaVine, being that you're 30, you probably want to start winning. I would assume that maybe he gets to a point with this team where he even potentially himself asks out. And so that this season, if that were to happen, if you're a team trading for him, I would project for him to pick up that player option, because I just don't know that he's getting that much money, obviously in the open market, unless he just absolutely kills it this season. But if you're a team trading for him, similar situation, you could say, okay, well, he may or may not be worth that money, but you're only have it on the books for 1 to 2 years.
Right.
You can maybe, I think, talk yourself more into that. Like, he's older, so there's that. But like Lowry, say Lowry just for whatever reason is the Lowry from last season for the rest of his career. I wouldn't expect it, but just hypothetically speaking, I wouldn't want $48-50 million in my books for a handful of seasons.
Yeah, that's fair. So when we look at Zach LaVine too, we have to remember he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. I mean, he's got other parts of his game that need help, but if that's what your team needs, if you need a guy who can come in and light it up for you, Zach LaVine can do that. And again, he did it at a very high rate last year. You look at 45%. We're rounding up to get there, but 45% from three. That, I mean, pretty impressive stuff from him shooting the ball last year. Is that sustainable? No, but even if he drops down to 40%, like that's still incredibly good given the degree of difficulty of his shots. So Zach LaVine may actually have some value out there. And if he makes it clear that he doesn't want to stick in Sacramento, then it would behoove the Kings, I think, to try to find something here while they can.
Go back to Zach's splits there. The fun thing I just saw was that he didn't miss a beat at all. Look at the splits between Zach and
after he got traded. That's because he went from one organization to the other. The mirror image, the attempts per game, the percentages, all of it. The Kings are Bulls West. The Bulls are Kings East.
He legit didn't miss a beat. That's crazy. Even the 3-point percentage attempts, it's all the same. The scoring goes down a little bit, but Unreal. That's crazy. Like, he didn't dip at all. His minutes went up as well, though, in Sacramento a little bit. But yeah, I thought that's pretty great, man. The shooting, I don't know if 45% is real.
No,
but maybe like 38. Looks like 39 is the career number, so maybe around. But I mean, the volume is high, so
yeah.
And he also is a guy that's out there taking those tough shots. You know, the only thing about him is that he's another guy that I'm sure he can play off the ball. But if you're going to integrate him onto your team, it might be a pretty big culture shock because he's going to want the ball a good bit.
Yeah.
So that's where it's, unless you're just looking to shake it up, it's kind of hard to rebound from that big of a trade midseason.
He may not be quite as plug and play unless he is willing to take less shots and less opportunities.
Yeah, so that's another thing.
All right, let's jump over here to another guy who we know doesn't want to be with his team, and that's Jonathan Kuminga. So this is if he winds up taking the Golden State Warriors 2-year offer right now, $45 million, waiving the no trade clause that would come with it, and doing something like that. Jonathan Kuminga could very well wind up, and I would predict he will wind up being moved. The Warriors are specifically trying to sign him to that contract so that he is tradable. And if he does agree to terms with the Warriors and doesn't pick up the qualifying offer, I would expect him to be somebody who gets traded mid-season. 15 points per game, actually took a little bit of a step back in terms of his three-point shooting. That was an area that he was trying to improve in, but didn't. Still a talented player, and I don't think the best fit for either him or the Warriors is to stay together for the long haul.
Yeah, getting traded into the season, especially that late into the season, is probably the worst thing that could happen for Jonathan.
Yeah.
Especially if he's on the qualifying. That is about the worst thing that you could do, I think. Like you were missing out on 60 games of being able to prove your worth on another team in an increased role. Cause I mean, he's going to deal with the same thing. He's going to play sometimes spotty rotation spot on the team. So he needs to get off the team ASAP, and going into the season day one, he ideally is on a different roster, but for Golden State, and even, I'll say this too. We talk about like whether or not that's great for Jonathan. It's also not great for Golden State if he is on the team and he's just an appreciating asset. Like he's just there, not looking like he's worth. Like
he's not the right fit. I think you mean depreciating asset, but yeah, like he's not the right fit for them long term. And he would just be there just to make sure that they don't lose him for nothing. Like that's, but and there's some in the Warriors who really like him, but he's not the fit that you need.
But like, if you're not playing him, he's not a part of rotation. What's incentivizing a team other than pure potential to say, we will offer you exactly what you want for him?
That's it. It's potential.
So so if he's not really like for the Warriors, if they're going to do that, that's not great for them either, really. No. So I think if he's on the team, the best thing they could do is just try to like brute force him in there, give him as much minutes as possible, try to trade him in as early in the season as possible.
Showcase him.
that's what you have to do. I think you can't have him on the end of your bench, not getting any minutes or playing 15 minutes a night because he doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. But maybe that's counter to you trying to, build something for this season. Like it may not be exactly what you need to do for that other end of it. But yeah, this has been something we've talked about a lot. Golden State doesn't really particularly want him. Some guys do, some guys don't, but he does want to be there regardless. So ideally he's moved sooner than later.
All right, let's jump to our last guy, and that is right back to the Sacramento Kings. We know they're trying to trade him so that they can bring in Russell Westbrook. I know a lot of people making fun of them for that, but it's not as bad because of his contract. We're talking about they're not just trying to turn Malik Monk into Russell Westbrook. They're trying to turn Malik Monk's 3-year contract into a 1-year veteran minimum. Basically, that has to be added into this conversation. But Malik Monk could be the best 6-man scorer in the NBA. Like that is within the realm of possibilities for him coming into a season, but our team's paying for a good 6th man scoring archetype, the Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford type. Is that really what teams are looking for right now? And so far the answer has been no, but the Kings appear to be pretty eager to move him if they can. And with that motivation, I think at some point, particularly if there's an injury at the guard position somewhere, some team will take a chance.
Yeah. So we're back to the Kings. Can we just talk about the Kings like we talked about the Bulls earlier? Just jettison all of them. Just do it.
Except Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray. Keep those guys.
Okay.
Everybody else.
But like everybody else, seriously.
Yeah.
They should be having very real conversations about literally everybody else.
They should.
And maybe maybe you want to keep like Devin Carter. Okay, maybe some outliers, right?
Sure, but they just don't want to tank.
Yeah, but so what, man? Just do it. Just bite the bullet and do it, because this isn't going anywhere. Like you just want to be a 41-41 team. Like, is that what you're going for?
They would love to be, as long as that's a playoff berth. They'd be thrilled with that. I think
that to me is just like, man, just burn it down. For Monk, I'm not too mad at 11%, 12% of the cap. Like I'm just not mad at that.
No, he's not bad.
I think he'd fit in really in a number of places. And we talked about Levine and how like it may be a big, he's not as plug and play. Malik is a similar thing, but the role expectancy is much less. The money is much less. So you could get, I think, maybe like a 6-man scorer type that you can put on your team. And if you need that, it's much easier to swallow that pill because of those things. And I would be much more open to trying to trade for Malik, because you don't have to gut your team to get him on your roster either. Yeah. So you may have open conversations about getting a higher tiered scorer in Levine, but I'd be okay with keeping some of my guys, maybe some assets, and nearly $30 million less, in trading for Malik Monk.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's a good player. The question will be, do teams want to take on that long-term salary? But we know there's going to be motivation from that Sacramento side. So those are the guys that we see as the most likely to be traded this coming season. Let us know in the comment section if you agree or disagree. Is there somebody we forgot? Somebody else that we should put on the list? Let us know in the comments. LeBron James. There you go. There's another one.
He's clearly going to get traded to Cleveland before the season's over.
Oh boy, here we go. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel, everybody. See ya and stay safe.